What do the Jaguars really need to get better and not be one of the worst teams in the league? We'll discuss that and more here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars, where you can find us everywhere you get podcasts. Whether you look at them or listen to them, you'll find Locked On Jaguars at that location each and every day. Just make sure you look for it. Go check it out and make sure you don't miss out on an episode. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start or end the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What up to the everydayers for joining us here every day? Here's what we're going to talk about here today. So we don't need blank. That's where we're going to end up landing at. So we don't need what? Since we're talking about all these needs, and you can always use more at whatever position group you have. But if you're going to say the Jaguars need to prioritize their needs, then you'll be saying we don't need what? That'll tie into the overall theme of the show. Year 4 of the, let's just assume that this is going to be the year 4 of Doug and Trent, right? Or one of them, if not both, one of those guys or both of those guys, doesn't matter. So we what changed? If you look at the needs of the team, what changed from when they first took over to right now? And that'll tell you what they have done and what they haven't done. All right. But first, let's establish that. Let's get that on record and establish what we think team needs are. And we'll do that here at the top of the show. Obviously, when you go through some of the things, whether if you're a listener, a long time listener to this podcast, you'll know that one of the things that I have been harping on is the trenches. And I'm going to still harp on those trenches because there's a difference between, in my opinion, when we talk about needs and what are we saying we need them for? Do we need them to I'm talking about building a championship team. Remember when this team got the right to draft Trevor Lawrence, I was like, all right, we got one shot to do this correctly. And we don't know how to do it because we haven't done it. And a lot of teams get in those situations when they get a chance to draft what they believe is a generational quarterback. Well, they don't know how to do it because they probably wouldn't be in that situation to draft a generational quarterback if they knew all of the things that you need to know in order to run a football team the correct way. Very rarely do you see teams that have had generational quarterbacks before or the opportunity to draft one. Very rarely do you see them right back at the top of the draft, right? You don't see well-coached teams sitting there at number 1 or well-run organizations sitting there at number 1 unless they traded for it. So I'm always going to say it's to build a championship or to get yourself into the neighborhood of championship territory. You need to be in the municipality somewhere. And the way you do that is to get that position right. The other thing you do is you get the coaching part of it right? Because I think there needs to be a dynamic between the coach and the quarterback that works. And we've seen where that has worked a lot, even with a quarterback who wasn't always with that coach. But Sean McVay in LA knew exactly how he would use Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford knew exactly what he was expected to do when he went to LA. So that's even the dynamic. But when I talk about team needs, I talk about the team needs in order for this to be a contender. You never know if a team's going to win a championship. So let me just say, to be in the residential area of championships where they're giving them out, you need to be there, right? That's why in the trenches, I will go back and say this is not championship level. Because if there's one thing that you point to about this Jacksonville Jaguars team, it is their ability to move people and their ability to not be moved by people. So therefore, that hasn't been properly addressed. So when we get to talking about what has changed, that's one of those things that we'll discuss. The divide that I have with a lot of people, especially I would assume people that work in that building, is they believe the line is better than I think it is. And I think that's that's a like they can agree, or we could sit and agree on the overall picture of what we think can win. I just think I disagree with people who make the decisions in Jacksonville. I disagree with whether or not they've done that, right? So when you look up and they're 3-10, that would tell you that the answer is no. But they may then turn around internally and point to a reason why they believe that they are 3-10, despite the fact that they have enough talent in their eyes to be better. And what that is, that starts the end pointing. And that's what I've been warning people about, because there's no way to get around it. You either think you either believe you're good enough or you believe you're not good enough, right? They believe going into the season that they were good enough to compete. A 3-10 record tells you that that's not the truth. So now you have to answer the hard questions as a why. We can't keep expecting the people who might be the why to point out the reasons why it's not working. That will make us dumb and stupid, right? So when folks call me mean and say that I'm trying to get rid of people and cancel folks' jobs and I'm insensitive, no, I'm not. I'm just being practical. You're 3-10 for a reason. And now somebody's going to ask them to tell them what those reasons are. If they point to a whole bunch of personnel shortcomings, then that means they were the problem, because they're the ones that picked the players. If it's about coaching issues, then that means they're also part of the problem, because they handpicked the coach. You see? And even if you look at the coach and ask him what the problem is, if he says it's the players, it points back to the GM. If he says it's the players and their effort, and for some reason they just didn't buy in, that points to him. If he says it's an assistant coaches, that points to him, because he fired some other assistant coaches that are doing okay somewhere else, but he still has the same assistants. So ultimately, at some point, somebody is responsible for this being 3-10, and it is not the injury bug. It is not the weather that people absorb every day here in Duval County. And absorb might not be the right word, because 90% of the time the weather is better here than it is anywhere else. It's not the water that we drink. It's not the fans. It's not a lack of sponsorships for the local. It's not a stadium deal that is hovering up. There is something wrong with this team. And it seems like every time you point to the people that may be responsible for it, one, they don't have an answer for you. Two, they'll never, ever take accountability for it themselves. So that's why we're doing this. What do we need? And I believe if you saw this up front, you were just thinking this is going to be some, okay, let's just look at the draft and let's just look at this. No, we're going to look at what we need and why we still need it and who is responsible for getting it. And we're not going to let that's why the other day when they beat the Titans, I was like, hold on, man. Yeah, okay, it's a good win, but don't lose sight of the fact that you hate Tennessee so bad. Don't lose sight of the fact that this thing stinks. And let's not they're gonna probably beat the Jets this weekend. They're probably gonna beat the Raiders. They'll probably beat the Titans the next time they play them, and they might go and beat the Colts. That won't mean that we were just so close, man. It wasn't as bad. It just no, it doesn't. And stop making it. Do not attempt to even negotiate with yourself to make yourself think that it's anything other than what I say it is. Okay. And we're going to keep breaking it down. We're going to say, okay, the needs. What are the needs? And where's the disconnect between if you think something is a need and I don't, or I do and you don't? Where's the disconnect? I'll tell you what evens out the whole disconnect of this entire thing. Go look at the standings. Oh, don't no. I meant really, go do it right now. Go look at the standings. The Jaguar, okay, if you don't feel like it, you ain't got time for it, or if you try to do it, you're going to disconnect with me. All right, I'll tell you. They're 3-10. Period. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that they need and what has changed. That's what we'll do in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Built Rewards. That's right. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, B-I-L-T, you can now earn points in rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no cost. Redeem points for flights, hotels, and even further rent payments or future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members. I love using it for travel. My wife uses it more than me because she travels more than me, but it always feels good when you have these rewards and you get something back for them. So start earning points on your rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. Join Built, one word, .com/lockedonnfl. Make sure you use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. All right, running it down here on Locked On Jaguars. We're at your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. There's my name tag. I was wondering why it looks so empty on my screen. You see my name tag, but you got it up there now. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, talking about the 3-10 Jaguars and what they need. We had to establish some ground rules for why I feel the way that I feel and why we're doing this show. So I know you ain't heard of name yet. All right. But you're going to hear some position groups and then some possibilities of where they can go and get this talent. I'm a trench guy. I think in order to be a really, really good team that puts yourself in a neighborhood where they're giving out championships, you have to have the trenches. You have to be able to run when you want to, run when you have to, and then be able to scheme things up so where you can protect your quarterback. I don't think the Jaguars are awful on the line, but they're not good enough to me. And they have two positions that they are probably going to have to upgrade. Well, in my opinion, they got to upgrade right guard. And then they got to start looking at center because Mitch Morse ain't going to last much longer. And then Mitch Morse was sort of what do they call it? When you get something just for a little while, you know it's not the long-term, solution. Stopgap. That's what it is. Stopgap. I don't think Anton Harrison played up to his potential this year. I also don't believe that Walker Little has had a big enough of a sample for you to say, okay, there's your career left tackle right there. He's going to protect Trevor Lawrence. And see, the thing is, Trevor's been hurt just about every year, with the exception of the first one. You got to keep him upright and you got to protect him. When you look at it from that standpoint, then maybe it looks like the Jaguars, who have I said it the other day, they have a guy at right tackle who was a first-round pick. He's still under, and that's a great resource to use, by the way. He's still under contract on a rookie contract. You basically got Walker Little on a 3-year, $45 million deal. That's your left tackle. That's sort of a bargain, right? Your left tackle is making like $7-8 million a year. I mean, your left guard in Ezra Cleveland. That's kind of a bargain. Mitch Morse ain't making a whole bunch of money. So the one that is making pretty good money, even though he restructured this year, was Brandon Scherf. The thing is though, it's cool to be able to get great play from a line that you don't spend a whole bunch of money for. But is it cool if your quarterback is always hurt, that at this point, 4 years in, this is the hill you're gonna die on? This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna find as much bargain as you can on your offensive line. You're gonna spare expenses now when it comes to your edge rushers. Right? Where is and then Eric Armstead? Like, Eric Armstead is your backup, whatever he is. Backup, I don't know if he's a backup 3 technique or backup big end, whatever he is. Eric Armstead is making more than probably half your line, if not 3/5 of your offensive line. Hell, maybe more than all of them. He might be the dude that doesn't even start for you on defensive end making more money than anybody on the offensive line. I mean, at some point, you got to sit there and go, what's our priority here, right? Speaking of that defensive line, they still need help over there. They've don't look up, but they're still paying dead money, dead cap space for a dude that's playing in Seattle and Roy Robinson Harris. They extended Devon Hamilton. I just told you they got Josh Allen under a second contract, which is a max deal, basically. Trayvon Walker was a first-round pick who they should be thinking about re-signing after this year and getting him in early. And then Eric Armstead, and yet still, they still need more people. If you saw the thumbnail, you saw I had Brandon Graham right there, because I think the Jags are going to pick somewhere between 5 and 10, and he may be one of the people that they're targeting. But everybody will still tell you they need active beef on the inside. It sounds weird, but that's what they do. They need people that can control the entire interior of the line of scrimmage. They still need another lockdown corner, which is another reason why people are happy that they're picking so high, because of Will Johnson. They ain't going to get Travis Hunter, but Will Johnson, who also goes to Michigan. They need a center fielder, a really, really good safety. I thought it was Andre Cisco. I think he's more suited to be a strong safety. I am not willing, as much as I like Cisco and I like his potential, I'm not willing to die on that hill and stand there and say, okay, I'm going to be stubborn about my opinion. No, they need to go out and get another dude. They need to go and get a pure free agency, not a free agency, but a pure single high capable, even if that's not what they're going to run, but a dude that's a game changer and a quarterback at the center field position on defense. Watch this. They actually drafted a wide receiver last year who actually ended up being one of the better players in our division in Brian Thomas Jr., and they still need another wide receiver. Even though they paid all that money for Gabe Davis, even though they are still paying Christian Kirk a bunch of money that they still have, and they got Parker Washington, in order for them to be a championship level team, Brian Thomas Jr. needs another dude just like him on the other side. I'm sorry. And they just need to be a 2 wide receiver outfit, occasionally using a third or a fourth guy, having capable people, but be a 2 wide receiver team, man, and stop worrying about having all of these 4, 5, and 6 dudes and having special plays called and designed for them. I'm sorry. I would take another running back if I was them at some point. Get another younger dude in there, because ETN seems like he gets banged up a lot. So I get me a running back that's a little bit of everything, but knows how to pass protect when it comes to blocking on third down for a quarterback. It's essential. You have to have it. And maybe somebody that's really good, like I say, it's short yardage as well, but can also catch the ball and get outside. Like I said, they need a 22-year version of Samaj P. Ryan, because I think their starters are okay, but you just can't sit there and wait for it. So let's see. That's corner. That's safety. I'm talking about star players. Star player, defensive tackle. In my opinion, at minimum, they need another right guard, a developmental center, and a swing tackle. They need a number 2 or a 1A wide receiver, not a 1A or 1B. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is an alpha. In my opinion, they still need a tight end that can do both things. I know everybody wants Brenton Strange to be that. Okay, get another Brenton Strange, and then let's see who's going to be the best. That's what you need. That's what this team needs. So it sounds like they need a defensive, a safety that's probably a better safety than they've seen in this organization in a long time. They need a corner. Doesn't have to be as good as Jalen Ramsey, but he can be about as good as A.J. Bouye. So that's going to be something that they have to find. I think they need another defensive tackle. I like the young kids that they have, but I'm talking about a dude that as soon as you see him, you go, yeah. Like Braden Fisk is out there with the Rams. You go, yep, that's it. Yep, okay. So they need another one of those dudes to go along with Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson. They need another edge rusher, even though they're already paying Eric Armstead a whole bunch of money. They need some youth in their rotational edge behind Josh and Trayvon, a dude that they can put out there on the field that won't be a liability that they're paying $13-14 million. So at the end of the day, the Jaguars need a whole bunch. What don't they need? What don't they need tells me more about what has or hasn't been done than me sitting here pointing out what they need, because that could be subjective. So I'll just flat out ask you, they're 3-10. Tell me what they need besides a new coach and a GM that's going to get them. And if you think they need a new GM, tell me why. If you don't think they need a new GM, tell me. So what don't they need? What the Jaguars going to do? They need a little luck? Tell me all about it here in the third segment of Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Ice Shaker. Man, this is the absolute best workout bottle you ever seen in your life. It's made out of the steel, man. It doesn't smell. It is the absolute truth. I'm telling you, man, Ice Shakers is for real. If you're like me and you're looking for holiday gifts for people and they are sports fans, there's no better gift. There's a perfect gift, in fact, created by Rob Gronkowski and the Gronkowski brothers. that benefits sports fans, people that like to work out, all during the holiday season. Ice Shaker, man. It's created by the Grant brothers. They've sold over 1 million bottles. It is a game changer. Kitchen grade stainless steel. It won't smell and absorb the odor. And it has your favorite team and their face written all over it. That's right. I got mine, and my wife took it to work, and she works out during the middle of the day. So I wish I could show it to you right now, but I'm telling you, it is the real deal. Order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shaker, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles on the market. And that is Ice Shaker at iceshaker.com. All right, running it down here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. Talk about the Jags. Talk about team needs, why I think the needs are what they are. What has changed in 4 years? What have they done? So let's park it right there before we talk about what they don't have. What's changed? When they took over this team, they didn't have, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson came in, he had Trevor Lawrence. Is Trevor Lawrence better now than he was? I don't think so. In fact, there are more questions. He got paid more money, but Trevor Lawrence now it does not seem like he is necessarily better than he was before. He got a little bit more beat up. He's probably mentally better, but we haven't seen that manifest itself yet, because this is actually the worst record. This will be the worst record this team has had under Doug Peterson, with Doug Peterson being here. So it's the end of year 3 for Doug Peterson. It's the end of year 4 for Trent Baalke. What has really gotten better? Their record has barely improved from when Doug took this team over. They were the worst team in the league. Last week, they still had the first pick in the draft, just like they did when Doug took over. So that hasn't changed much. They off the field, they got good news. They're going to get a new stadium, got a new practice facility. So all of the things off the field that make this organization something that it should be more attractive to people, that has worked. Physically on the field, what has actually gotten better? I will say this: the promise of what Anton Harrison and Walker Little can be is encouraging. But we're still sitting here in year 4 talking about things that are encouraging instead of things that are. That's changed a little bit. They actually do have firepower, and they're not a slow team like they were when Doug Peterson took over. So they've gotten a lot faster. They have identifiable alpha dogs on defense in Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen and Foye Oluwakan. They got some young players with promise in Ventrell Miller, Devin Lloyd. Sometimes I feel good about Devin, sometimes I don't. I'm okay with Tyson Campbell being one of your corners. If you're trying to get there, they got some young depth pieces. I think Monteric Buster Brown is a good piece. Antonio Johnson may have worked himself back into the favor of the team. We'll see how that goes. And then some young players in Jarian Jones and Mason Smith that I mentioned just yesterday on the pod. Those things are positive. That's not enough. That's not enough body of work for me, for somebody to tell me we can keep moving in the same direction we're moving in, which is why I think they need to change. So now I ask you, what don't they need? They don't need a quarterback. And I know there's a handful of people around America that would disagree with me, you, and everybody else about that. I think Trevor's fine. They just have to, he's just not that dude that's going to carry everything by himself and make it obvious that, okay, I'm here. All you got to do is get these pieces. That's not what Trevor is. And we need to resign ourselves to it. He's a dude that has to have some things around him. And then I think the talent will come out more, sort of Jared Goff-ish, maybe with a little bit more special effects than Jared Goff has as a football player. Kind of due to him what Jim Harbaugh's out there doing to Justin Herbert. I don't need you to be great all game. I just need you to be great at the time of the game when it calls for you to be great. And that's what Trevor needs. But you have to Harbaugh him. You have to put all of these things around him. You have to look at the offensive line as a weapon. See, that's what they did last year in the draft. They had a pretty decent offensive line. He made it better by getting the best tackle in the draft probably in a decade. I'm saying, well, it might not have been our best need, but it might be our biggest gain. The fact that they now have him and Darisaw, they got two bookend, surefire, we can do whatever we want to do whenever we feel like doing it tackles on the offensive line to protect their quarterback. It's going to be easy for them, I believe, to fill in the blanks around them. They got a good receiver in Lad McConkey. I think they'll add to it. It's easy to do that than it is to come back and try to fix the infrastructure of your team when you are depending on just okay players at those premium infrastructure positions. So I think the quarterback is cool. I don't think they need a starting running back. They don't need a number one receiver, which is a good thing. But they need another receiver who's just that good or close to it. That's what I believe. They don't need a starting edge rusher, but they do need an edge rusher with the caliber of play that if he needs to be a starter, you'll be okay with it. Kind of like when the Jags had both Dante Fowler and Yannick Ngakoue playing opposite of Calais Campbell. You need a third guy, but they don't need a starter. I think they need a starting interior defensive tackle. They don't need. I don't think they need a linebacker in their first three. Maybe their first three. I know their first two. They don't need a starting linebacker. Other than that, they need a whole bunch of stuff. Now, here's the thing: you can't get it in one season. So this is why you just start over. You're not one step away. Trent ain't like almost there. No, a lot of these things could have been done, and at the pace that he's going to get them, when you go out and get some of these people, you're going to have other guys that their contracts are going to run out. You're going to have other people that their time is going to be up. And then those needs are going to see, you have to get these things. You have to be able to get talent at a rapid enough pace that you kind of get it all together for a little bit. And then you supplement it while you're in the neighborhood where you can win a championship. And maybe you get one and you play for another one or you get another one. And see, that's what it's about. It's not about just constantly replacing pieces and replacing parts and functionally knowing, okay, we're going to need this, we're going to need that. But then you look at the standings, go ahead and look at the standings. You're 3-10 again. It just doesn't make sense to me. This is why I broke this down this way, because when you look at what they need, it tells you what they've done. It tells you what they haven't done. And then it also tells you, are they capable of moving forward and making this change in the next 2 years when they didn't really make it change that much in 3 or 4 years? That's the point that I wanted to make, and I hope I made it. Check me out on Locked On NFL each and every day. You can find me on the PM side of it at the barbershop after Tyler Rowland in the morning comes on, and the madman Tyler Rowland hits you early in the morning with all the top stories from around the league with the use of local experts. And I do the same in the barbershop twice a day on Locked On NFL. Make sure you check it out. All right, we got a crossover tomorrow with John Lee Bushko from Locked On Jets. This should be a lot of fun. All that drama. Bring all that drama. It's raining outside, too. They're bringing all that drama from New York down here as if we don't have enough. But we'll do that tomorrow. And make sure you guys check us out here every single day. Make sure you go to FanDuel and holler at FanDuel, our sponsor for today. We'll see you next time on Locked On Jaguars.